So we all know the story about Jonah and the whale, right? But do we know how Jonah got inside the whale? Let's talk about it. I was reading Jonah the other day, and Jonah is a story about disobedience. Jonah is a story about what happens when you disobey God. And Jonah is a story about how if God called you, you're going to fulfill that calling, period. So, let me tell y'all what happened from the beginning. God gave Jonah a word to go tell his people about himself. About themselves, basically. The people was doing some wicked stuff, or however, they were doing some things that was displeasing God. God told Jonah to go tell the people that they were displeasing him. And Jonah was like, I'm not doing that. So he ran from the calling. Jonah went to go get on somebody's boat so that he can go to a whole nother city so he didn't have to do what God told him to do. So while Jonah was in these people's boat, God sent the wind and it disturbed the ocean that they were floating on. And the people was like, oh my God, what's going on? We about to die. So everybody that was on the boat started calling out to their gods, because everybody didn't believe in the same God as Jonah. So everybody started praying out to their gods, calling out to their gods, whatever they do with their gods. And they decided that they were going to cast a lot to figure out who was causing this storm to happen. Like, who was bringing this storm. And the lot landed on Jonah. So Jonah had to tell them the truth, that God told him to do something and he was running from it. So before all of that happened, the people were throwing like stuff. I think it was before and after. Go read it for yourselves, y'all. Don't quote me. It's the whole book of Jonah. But at some point or another, the people started throwing the things off of the boat to lighten the load of the boat. So these people were losing their possessions. They were getting rid of their possessions because Jonah got on their boat out of disobedience to God. Let's pause there. When you disobey God and when you run from your calling, you not only disturb your life. Storms don't only come to you, but they come to the people that's around you. They come to the people whose lives you're in. Being disobedient to God doesn't just cost you, but it costs other people. It costs those people their possessions. They threw their stuff off of the boat to lighten the load so that the storm would cease. And of course, the storm didn't cease because God is going to come for you if he called you, period. So Jonah just told them, he was like, I'm the problem. Throw me off the boat. So the people ended up throwing him off the boat. It was like, God, please don't let his blood be on our hands. Like, don't punish us for killing your people. We're gonna throw him off the boat though. So they threw Jonah off the boat and Jonah landed in the well. And in that well at the bottom of the ocean, like in the darkest place, inside of that well is where Jonah prayed to God, repented to God, and called out to God. When you disobey God and when you go against your calling, you will be brought to your knees. Like, God has a way of bringing you to your knees. He was on his knees praying to God to free him, to rescue him. And after 3 days of being in the belly of the whale, God allowed the whale to spew him out. And then Jonah was like, all right, I'm going to do it. What you want me to do? I'm gonna answer the call. So Jonah answered the call. He went and did what God told him to do. And this story, it's parts to this. I'm just going to talk about this one part. And I'll probably talk about the second half of Jonah too, because that part is so good too. But Jonah answered the call. And so the more of this story about this portion of Jonah for me to get to y'all is answer the call the first time. When God calls you the first time, answer, because no matter what, you're going to have to answer the call. Whether you disobey him and you run from the calling and a storm is brought into your life and it harms not only you but the people around you, eventually you're going to still have to answer the call, because when God calls you, he calls you. It's not up to you whether or not you answer the call. Like, you're going to have to do it at some point or another. So do it the first time so you don't cause storms to come into your life or anybody else's life for that matter, because you're going to have to eventually do it anyway.